Sorry, Chair, can they use their microphones, please? I can't hear.
I'm Sue Riley. I'm a county councillor and also a member of the licensing committee. Thank you.
My mic wasn't working. I'm Tony Easton, County Councillor for Dewsbury Caldecott, Chair of the Licensing Committee and Chair of the Subcommittee. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor Dale Rook, representing Chepstow Castle and Larkfield wards, and I'm also a member of the Licensing Committee.
The officers now.
Wendy Barnard, Democratic Services.
Samantha Wynne, Licensing Officer.
Lindro Gorman, the Principal Licensing Officer.
Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Naga Rajesh, Licensing Agent.
Kajandan Nagaratnam, applicant.
Yourself.
Hi, this is Nakindram, Area Manager.
And the public at the back, would you like to introduce yourselves? I understand Benny's. I know Penny.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Penny Jones and I'm the ward member for Raglan, County Councillor. Thank you.
And I'm Adrian Edwards, Clerk to Raglan Community Council.
This is C. Warwick and I live joining the premises of a garage. Yeah.
And whilst they bring themselves forward, we've got one visitor on screen.
Hi.
Ah,
Yes,
right. Right, okay. Could you just introduce yourself, please? Hang on.
I'm Claire Grace. I'm a resident of Raglan.
Okay, thank you. You're all getting comfortable here now, so. Right. All comfortable, nice little family here, so we can move on. Can I ask the officers to introduce the paper, please?
Yeah, just a few things, Chair, just to sort of clarify a few points. Have you all had sight of the report that we're going to be discussing today, and also the hearing procedure for all parties? I understand Mrs. Warwick has attended today and she's got her colleague with her, but Mrs. Warwick will be addressing it because she is the person who made the objections, just to make that clear to begin with. Okay. So you've all had a copy of the process, and are you happy as the applicants to continue today without any legal representation? I know you've got your agent here today, but you're happy to continue without any legal representation? Yes. Okay, good. Like I said, you've got in the hearing procedures, it does say maximum of 10 minutes, but in the interest of fairness in this committee, obviously you've got a number of objectors, so you'll have an opportunity to sort of address any of the objections that's been made as well, to give the fair amount of time, just to sort of point that out really as well, all right? Because there is a guidance note of 10 minutes. I'll hand you over to the licensing officer who will present the report in a moment. What will happen then, we've got no responsible authorities here today, but it will be the other person, so basically the objectors that sat behind you today, and the lady that's on the Teams call as well, that's going to be in on this meeting. They will address their concerns. You will have an opportunity then to question anything or to give your view with regards to that. And similarly, the members will also be able to address any concerns that they have. And then once they've done their submissions, you will then be able to do your submission of how you're going to run the premises. And again, equally, they can question anything of yourself, all right? Just to make you aware of the hearing procedure. So I'll hand you over to the licensing officer to present the report first.
Good afternoon, everyone. As everybody has already seen the report, I'm only going to read out a summary. So, an application for a premises licence has been received from Mr Nagaratnam for Raglan Service Station, High Street, Raglan. The application is for the sale of alcohol off the premises for 24 hours Monday to Sunday. The premises is a convenience store with a small petrol station, and the application is attached as Appendix A. You'll also see attached as Appendix B, there are photos of the outside area of the premises. I've handed everyone a copy of a map showing the village of Raglan and the area surrounding the premises. I've also highlighted the streets from which objections have been received. Now, since the report has been written, the applicant requested that a reduction of hours be submitted to all objectors to see if they were willing to withdraw their representation. The hours submitted were 6 a.m. until midnight. None of the objectors agreed to the reduction in hours and did not remove their representations. Therefore, the application stands as first submitted with the hours of the sale of alcohol being 24 hours a day. The applicant has stated within the operating schedule how they intend to run the premises under the 4 licensing objectives. The application was sent to the statutory consultees and advertised as required. Representations were received from Gwent Police, requesting the applicant agree to accept further conditions relating to CCTV, incident and refusal logs, staff training and Challenge 25. The applicant agreed to the additional conditions and Gwent Police removed their representation. The licensing officer also submitted representations and requested that the entrance to the shop to be closed to customers between the hours of 12 midnight through to 5 a.m. daily. Any sales made between these hours will be made through the night pay window. The applicant has agreed to this condition. The licensing officer also requested that the condition relating to the designated premises supervisor being contactable at all times to be removed as it is not realistic. The Licensing Act 2003 does not require the designated premises supervisor to be on site 24/7. The condition limiting the sale of alcohol to multi-packs was also asked to be removed, as the sale of single bottles or cans will not undermine the licensing objectives. The applicant agreed to these conditions and the licensing officer removed the representation. No further representations were received from any of the other statutory consultees. Representations, however, were received from other persons. Copies of the full representations are attached as Appendix C. The main points that can be linked to the 4 licensing objectives are: the premises will entice people to congregate outside of the premises, cause light pollution, increase noise and traffic, cause noxious and obnoxious smells and pollution, create litter, possibility of proxy sales, noise from increase to customers attending the premises. The applicant responded stating that they will install a dimmable lighting system, no deliveries during the late hours or early mornings. They will install the latest tannoy system, which is audible only for a few metres away from the system. There will be bins for customers to dispose their rubbish, and there is plenty of ample parking space to accommodate customers. None of the objectors wish to withdraw their representations. Just to highlight that under the Licensing Act 2003, all representations must be made under the 4 licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children from harm. Any objections that do not relate to the licensing objectives should be disregarded. Members are asked to have regard to the Licensing Objectives Guidance sections 2.1 to 2.21 of the Home Office Revised Guidance issued in April 2018 under Section 182 of the Licensing Act, attached as Appendix D. The determination of the application is to be considered in accordance with Section 18 of the Act. In Section 9.4 of the Guidance, the Secretary of State recommends that a representation would only be relevant if it relates to the likely effect of the grant of the licence on the promotion of at least one of the licensing objectives. Section 13.10 of the Guidance states that the licensing authority should give comprehensive reasons for its decisions in anticipation of any appeals. That concludes the summary of the application and the representations for Raglan Service Station.
Okay then.
I was going to say, if you want to, if you want to do it in order then of the other persons that's make the representation, the first person then is, I believe, is Claire Grace, which is on Teams. So if
Yes.
you would like to hear her objection, first
Okay,
of all.
I've got it on screen. Let's take that. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome again.
Hi, thank you. I think that a lot of the things that have been proposed are not really that effective in terms of where I live. I already live next door to a shop which has ample parking, which people don't use. So despite the fact that they will offer parking, people don't seem to use the parking that's on offer. So the high street in Raglan, I don't know if you know it very well, is particularly congested at all hours of the day. The only relief we get is at 6 o'clock when the shops close. I am really concerned about the noise, the traffic noise, the noise from the petrol station at all hours of the morning, especially as the front of my house faces directly into the garage, and I think it's possibly the closest house to the garage. As I said, I've lived here for quite a while, and it's always been a petrol station, so I've never been opposed to it being a petrol station. I think the 24-hour aspect of the situation around the noise, the people, and I think what's really affected kind of me as well is that it doesn't feel like it's a petrol station or a shop that's for the people of Raglan. It feels like it's being purposely built, constructed to bring people in, which, you know, again, I've no objection to that, but at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it would be absolutely a detriment to my family's happiness living in the village. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay, can I ask just one question? I see you come up.
Yep.
I see you come up on the screen as Anna and Bevan Health Board. You're speaking on your own behalf, not about the Health Board, are you?
No.
Okay, thank you. Right, next one then.
I don't know if you want to put, if they want to respond to that submission in order. It makes it easier then, and obviously when you come to, have you got any questions you'd like to say to, or any response to Ms. Grace?
Yes, just a quick one, Chair, if I may. Thank you for the statement. I just want to ask a quick question. You mentioned about the late hours and the disturbance, and you compare us to the different premises. First one is a statement. We have different measures in place. They are not same as any other premises. We have a bigger chain. We have a chain of petrol station. We have our standards. That's the statement. And the question is, yes, I totally respect what you said about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Is there any time, acceptable time for you? Because during the consultation, we talked to the residents through the licensing team till midnight, but nobody accepted that. So I just wanted to hear, is any preferred time?
Well, the shops in the village currently close at, I think, 6:30 is the latest, and the latest establishment, I suppose that isn't a pub, is the chip shop, which closes at 9 p.m, I believe. And so that's possibly the latest, but even that feels late, just with the amount of traffic that would be caused coming through the village. So the current shop times are suitable, I think, to the people of Raglan.
Any other comments from the applicants or just yourself?
No, Chair, thank you.
Like I said, the applicants will be able to sort of sum up their submissions anyway once everybody else has spoken. I did it in order of the report itself, just so you're aware, because obviously you've got the written submissions and some are not attending today. So the next order in the report itself was two written submissions dated 25th of October. They won't be attending today. And then the next one after that, on page 43 of your report. So page 39 and 41, they are not attending. And page 43 is Mr. and Mrs. Warwick, but obviously you will take into account those that are have made the written submissions. So I don't know if you want to comment on any of the written submissions that are the ones that are attending. Okay. So then you've got Mr. and Mrs. Warwick. So Mrs. Warwick is here today. So if you want to say your views, you can sit down.
No, you can sit down.
Stand.
Yeah.
Just remember to do your mic when you speak. Okay.
Well, I live close to the premises, which I adjoin. And we really don't think that we want to be disturbed at 12 o'clock at night. I think the hours that the community council have is quite good enough. And the traffic in the road, it's beyond shop time, because at the pubs and all that, there is no parking anywhere in the street. And just lately, the people have been turning in the street and making that quite dangerous. So where did you intend your cars to park if they want to use the off licence, please? One question I ask. I think, is it needed? There's already 2 off licences and 2 public houses there. Do we need any more, and do we need people coming through as late as 12 o'clock at night? I sleep right on the front of my husband and I, and it's very easy to hear people knocking about very often if they'll be about after that sort of time. And the pubs, I don't think have got any strict hours, so they can go on as long as it likes, and we're going to have these others as well. I don't think we'd be very happy then, because I've lived in the village all my life, so I do know a bit about the garage, and I remember it being built as well. And I'm just wondering where the parking would be for these extra vehicles. Thank you.
I don't know if the applicant wants to respond to that. I just remind you, Chair, that objections need to be under the 4 licensing objectives. So that is within the report itself, okay? So I don't know if the applicant's agents want to say any comment regarding the parking.
I see that you mentioned that 2 of the objections in writing are not here. We've got their written objections. I presume that Councillor Jones, Penny Jones, is representing some of them. Am I correct?
Yes, I am. I'm also a member. Sorry, Chair. I'm also a member of the Community Council, so the clerk is standing in for the chair, who sent his apologies today. He was making the main report, and I was backing up. Yes, I'm here on behalf of residents as well.
Okay, I'll leave to you next then. Go on.
Thanks.
I think
The applicant would like to...
I think our gentleman wants to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I just say, for your clarity, where the resident lives, if you look on the map which is shown,
Yeah.
the map says Old Shop.
Yeah.
Mrs. Warwick lives between the wording Old Shop and Ship Cottage. So it's the dwelling between those 2 properties. Just for a point of clarity for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, yeah. That's to the, looking at the map, that's to the right, that's towards Chepstow, the Monmouth end, isn't it? Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick comment, Chair. We do have enough parking spaces within our boundary. The premises is currently going through some renovation, so we have enough parking to accommodate people inside our boundary. There's no street parking is needed.
I've driven past that place a number of times, and recently. There's nothing going on at the moment, is there? There's no shop there. It's got to be redeveloped. It's got to be developed, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And in that development, you're going to provide car parking spaces, disabled
yes.
spaces?
That is right, Chair. There's going to be lots of investment in terms of structural wise and the renovating side as well.
Okay.
Can I comment on that parking issue?
See that.
Okay. Just that I live next door to the post office, and they have a car park around the back, and nobody uses the car park. It's a huge car park. Nobody uses the car parks. People park on the street because it's really accessible.
Can I just, Ms. Grace, once people have done their objections, in the interest of fairness, you will have your right of summing up at the end of any comments that's made once the applicant has given his submission. So it will make it easier then when you will actually read out your individual comments that you've submitted for the report. So obviously they'll have a right to sort of come back with anything when they sum up anyway. Okay, and just to chair that Appendix B is the layout of the map of the premises itself that the applicant is referring today with regards to the parking area, just so you're aware of that as well.
I must say, we like our post office, we're losing those in Cardiff.
Okay.
Right, where next?
So the next one then is, bear with me, Chair, is you've got page 45, which is a written submission, another objection, which you would have all had sight of today. They are not attending today. And then we've got Councillor Penny Jones to give her viewpoint as well. So if they'd like to come in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's take
Thank
Penny
you, Chair.
then.
Yeah. We are, as I say, the Community Council will be making a report as well. And, you know, we've had light pollution mentioned. It is a concern. We've had noise mentioned, and that's a concern. We've had litter, yes, we know, mentioned, but we know that there are going to be bins, but not everybody takes notice of bins. But the main aspect is this is a very, very quiet road that is practically unused during the night. It is not a thoroughfare, does not need to be used. What the question I think has to be asked is why? Why are we having a 24-hour garage when there is absolutely no need for it?
Just one point, Councillor Jones, it has been determined that they're looking for 6 till 12, no, not 24 hours.
Okay, for the actual garage, yes, sorry. So, anyway, sorry, yes, so we've reduced that to 12. We still have, the pubs close at 10 o'clock, the shops close at, 10:30, sorry, 11 o'clock, whichever. By 11 they have closed. The shops have closed earlier, the chip shop closes at 9 o'clock. The place is deserted. It is a quiet, quiet street. There is nobody going through. So I agree with Miss Grace's comment about the fact that it seems to be aimed at people coming into Raglan, and thereby lies my concern, because I'm worried about congregation of people who perhaps not there for, or maybe there for nefarious reasons, but it may even need petrol. But we have an open Raglan service station not far up the road, so there is a facility locally which is available. So my concern, and my concern of residents who've contacted me, are why is this open? Why is this deemed necessary when it seems to only be to attract people into the area rather than serve the locals? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Before I hand over to the applicant, I just want to clarify a few points. I think the submission was that they would have the alcohol sales from 6 a.m. until midnight. Is that currently, are you still happy with that to go forward anyway? Just a sort of point of clarification there that was raised. Just so that the members know what to decide upon.
We can even reduce till 11.
So when, sorry? Can you address the chair, sorry? Or we'll put your mic on, if you don't mind, please.
Chair, we can even reduce further till 11 o'clock, 6 till 11.
Okay, so you're happy with 6 to 11?
11 at the moment,
yeah. Forward today. Yeah. I just want to clarify that because I know Councillor Jones mentioned that...
But just one question of you, 6 till 11, but it will still be a convenience store as well?
Yes.
And that convenience store would operate under the 6 till 11 then?
Yes. Yes. Opening hours and the alcohol hours.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Chair, just to remind that the decision today is on the licensable activity with the alcohol sales. Yeah, the gentleman has also submitted within the application that there will be a night pay that they've agreed to from 12 o'clock. So I'm assuming that will be regardless of like the alcohol sales ending. Okay, so it'll be night pay.
I didn't get that.
In the added condition that they have agreed to is that it'll be a night pay window from 12 o'clock anyway. But you would only have to decide on the licensable activities. The 24-hour opening, that is a matter that may be for planning but not for consideration in the licensing committee today, just to raise that point.
So we're talking about the license of alcohol
sales.
Any other issues then?
Any other issue, you know, if it's
Yeah.
open 24 hours but not selling alcohol, that would be a matter for planning.
I was thinking where
Okay.
planning comes into this, whether there's a planning application required.
We've had no objection from planning to the 24-hour which was submitted to them, but that's something that the objectors would need to clarify with planning with regards to that. Okay, so today you'll be deciding on the alcohol sales.
Because we also sit on the planning committee, so
Yeah.
we've got also a personal interest in that rather than prejudicial. So if it goes to planning, you know where we're coming from.
Yeah, okay. So I'll hand you over to the applicants if they want to pass comment on the what Councillor Jones have actually submitted just then. Okay.
Is it possible for the members to ask any questions?
Yeah, you have the right to ask the questions at the same time, you know, to what has been said.
Okay, they'll wait till you've had your submission, right?
You don't have any questions? No, I don't. Members, do you have any questions with regards to that? No? Okay. Okay.
Okay, the members, well, I don't have any, I've listened to what you said, but what you're saying is that you're now looking to run from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. On alcohol sales. I understand that the other matters will go to a planning committee if necessary. Would you be intended to go to planning to look at other aspects of this outlet? You don't mention petrol sales, but they would come in as part of the time, which might come forward later as an application.
Thank you, Chair. We have looked into that before. We have a planning consent to operate 24/7. The premises has a planning consent to operate 24/7.
So
Yeah.
we've had no objection to planning with regards to this application.
We have a planning consent to 24/7, but at the moment, from what I'm hearing from my client, our intention is not to open that 24 hours.
I don't miss many planning things, but I didn't see that one go through, to be quite honest. I think that Councillor Jones wants to say something.
Can Mr Edwards come in here, please? Because he's done some
Yeah, Mr.
research
Edwards
and
will
stuff.
be next then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah. So if you've got no further questions, then I'll hand you over to Mr. Edwards, who's on behalf of the Raglan Community Council. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Subcommittee. I got a submission to make on top of the notes we made in relation to the application. This submission is relating to the application of the sale of alcohol at the former Ford garage in Raglan. There is some discommunication between the name of Raglan service station and the name of the garage, because there is also a garage and a system already in place by the name of Raglan service station, being on the A40. Members of Raglan Community Council have concern over this application for the selling of alcohol over 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Community Council accepts the notification of, prior to this meeting, the selling of between 6 a.m. and 12 midnight. But members of the Community Council are not against the sale of any alcohol, but are opposed to alcohol being sold 24 hours a day in a small community like Raglan. One of the objections is that the application will have a detrimental effect on the street scene due to the light pollution from the forecourt lights during the times of darkness and the extended times of darkness during the winter months. The applicant has identified that they are prepared to install dimmers to the forecourt lights. This may reduce the brightness, but it will not stop the light pollution from the forecourt on the street scene. Members of the Community Council ask that the committee consider Section 103 of the Clean Neighbourhoods Environmental Act 2005, where it states statutory nuisance being light, which has been amended along with Section 79 of the Environmental Protection Act 1990, which lists the statutory nuisances in this section. Also includes artificial lights entitled from the emanated from the premises, which could be prejudicial to the health or nuisance to residents. Concerns must be expressed about the extra noise and the pollution about more vehicles using the garage during the opening hours, when all other businesses have closed during the trading day. Closed after the trading day, to apologise. The former use of the garage was a petroleum forecourt with car sales, with a small pick and buy shelf in the pay booth. Therefore, the proposed application is going to create more traffic movements and footfall in and around the high street and the village itself, and could be detrimental to the visitors and residents who live in that area. I take on board, Mr. Chairman and panel members, what's just been said about the opening hours, but I would like to identify what the Community Council have said in their meeting, where the applicant and the licensing officer was invited to attend in October. Members of the Community Council recommend that the trading hours should be restricted to 500 hours to 2100 hours, Monday to Saturday, and Sunday, 800 hours to 1600 hours. And the sale of alcohol is restricted to the hours of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a Sunday. In relation to one of the objectives on child protection, with regards to the protection of children and vulnerable adults, the law does provide specific protection for children, such as making illegal sales for children under the age of 18. The applicant has indicated that a register will be maintained. However, safeguarding measures that have been suggested within the application does not take into account minors. Having alcohol purchased for them, and then underage drinking takes place in other open spaces within the community. Dear councillors, the application is to sell alcohol 24 hours a day, subject to what's been said today. At this moment in time, officers cannot confirm if the premises have received planning consent to be open 24 hours a day. I've asked that question of the planning committee. I have found 12 planning applications in relation to the garage. Not one of them gives consent for that garage to be open 24 hours a day. It is the Community Council's understanding officers of the Planning Department's enforcement team are investigating this. This committee must be mindful to grant consent for 24-hour opening without planning consent could be prejudicial to the planning application that will need to be submitted. Members of the Community Council ask the committee, if you are minded to consider granting a licence, the Community Council recommend the proposed opening hours are above in this submission, i.e. opening hours 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a Sunday, and the sale of alcohol restricted between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a Sunday. The Community Council would like to ask, does this subcommittee have delegated powers to approve the application, or does it go back to the licensing committee or full council for approval? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing the Community Council to address this committee. I do have some other concerns in relation to what's been said about the application. Concern must be expressed that the officer had just said other goods will be served through a night window, and the selling of petrol and petroleum will be over a 24-hour day. At this moment in time, there is no consent in place for that to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I could just pass comment before I pass over to the applicant's chair, if I may. The decision here, I know it was questioned whether the decision will be made today or if it goes to full council. The actual decision for this licence is obviously heard today. Then there is a right of appeal if all parties, whatever is decided by you as chair, if all parties are not happy with it, there is a right of appeal then to the magistrates' court, all right? And we will give that in writing anyway following whatever submissions has been made today to make it clear to all parties, be it the applicant or the objectors today. And you've heard about other acts that was mentioned, like Environment Protection Act and various acts like that. The Licensing Act doesn't duplicate other acts. There are further powers. So if the licence was granted, Environmental Health has powers in their own right other than the Licensing Act. And I'm sure that you'll get legal advice on this, both I'll say it in open forum, so you're all aware of that element as well. And obviously the gentlemen, whether they'll comment now with regards to the submissions of what they would like the preferred hours in the Community Council would like the preferred hours today. So I just want to make those points sort of clear, you know, how it would work with yourself today. So I'll hand you over to...
Can I come in one? You made a lot of points, in your submission. A lot of them don't apply to today's deliberations. Today's deliberations is about the sale of alcohol and the hours of which it can be varied. You mentioned matters which I think are planning matters, and I don't take the advice of our legal eagle in the corner as to what advice he can give in terms of the comments you made which don't apply to us this afternoon. Am I right?
Yes, the issues in terms of other planning consents are not for today's hearing. This is a licensing hearing dealing with licensing matters. The planning aspect will be dealt with by the planning committee, subject to any application that's made.
Yeah, because you mentioned various times the licensing hours, which I understand. The others are going to be set aside this afternoon because they're not applicable to this particular hearing.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. But for the selling of alcohol during the hours of darkness, the forecourt must be lit. At this moment in time, the forecourt is not lit. So I would ask you to consider that, although it's a planning matter, without street lighting and without forecourt lighting, the sale of alcohol could be detrimental to those using it. So I think, Mr. Chairman, you should consider light pollution in relation to considering giving any consideration and grants towards that. Granting consent towards that, because it's all part and parcel of the sale of alcohol under this application.
I take everything on board what you said, but you talk about darkness and light, 24-hour, well, the light changes as the sun goes up and down. We can't deal with that matter as this committee today. It'll be dark at 4 o'clock today, it'll be dark at 10 o'clock in the summer. But that's another matter. What we've got to consider is whether we feel as a subcommittee that this licensing application to sell alcohol under prescribed conditions can be agreed. The applicants have come back and said that they're prepared to drop off the 24-hour sale from go to 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. You also mentioned a number of days in the year which alcohol could be sold. You've referred to that. So can we take that into consideration?
You can take all matters into consideration. Obviously, you can take what's the preferred times of opening that they've mentioned today. Obviously, that's what they would like from part of the Community Council. I think it was mentioned from 0500 to 2100 hours on the night, Monday to Saturday, opening hours, 0800 to 1600 hours on the Sunday. And then the alcohol sales going from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 p.m. And also Monday to Saturday, and the alcohol sales 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the Sunday. And obviously you will hear from the applicants what they would like in their opening hours and alcohol sales. And that's a matter for you to decide what option you prefer to take when you deliberate at the end, okay? Have you got any further questions, Chair? I'll land on
I just want to emphasise again that it's the licensing and sale of alcohol we're talking about. Yeah. The other issues are important in your mind, but they must go into a different route to be determined. I'm not saying what route they've got to go on, but we can only work on the application for sale of alcohol as a licensing committee. Dale wants to.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just curious to know, it's been a petrol station in its previous incarnation, what was the opening hours of that petrol station? Because if it was acceptable then, why is it different now?
Hi, just to say that when we did send the application around for consultation, planning did come back and they said that it was a long-established Ford garage petrol station shop on the High Street in Raglan. Then this has been there for decades and there wouldn't be any planning conditions restricting hours of operation. So I think it's because it's been there so long, there weren't any restrictions on opening hours well before the Licensing Act, I assume.
One other point to think, obviously, the matter we are referring to today is as it currently stands, you know, regardless of previous activities or previous operations, because how a previous person may operate it may not be the same as how this person may operate it. So obviously you're going to go with what application has been put forward to you today. So if there's any more, can I pass over to the applicant? You okay?
Could I just say that I think it is relevant. This was just a garage that did not open at late hours at all, and it didn't have any shoppers associated with it. So it is relevant, your question, I think, Councillor Rook. It was smaller. I can't remember the exact hours. Can you?
Mr. Chairman, if it's possible, Mrs. Claire Grace lives opposite the garage. And Mrs. Warwick have lived in the village all these years. They will be able to give you a time when this garage used to operate and the hours it operated for. Councillor Rook's purpose of question. Thank you.
Go on then, carry on, Claire.
So Monday to Friday, they opened at 7:30, closed at 5:30. And Saturday opened at 8, closed at midday, and they didn't open Sunday at all.
Thank you.
And I believe, did you say, I think I overheard somebody mention, just to make it fair, that it was more of a car sales place rather than a shop. Is that what you said? Okay, okay. Yeah, so obviously this is slightly different on this application today.
So, am I right in thinking that you might have to go back to planning, whatever?
No,
Okay.
There's no need for planning because obviously we've consulted planning. We're just deciding on the licensable activities.
Right. Are you in Raglan satisfied with that answer? That's the question I ask of you. Because we're dealing with the potential alcohol sales, not sales of biscuits and things like that, and papers, which might become the norm.
Mr. Chairman, I think the Community Council are fully aware what the application is about, and it's about the sale or the selling of alcohol. But taking into account the selling of alcohol, for people to go into a commercial premises, there must be adequate light for safety to go in and out those premises. The selling of confectionery would have been sweets and soft drinks through a pick-up and sell counter within the building itself. And the actual building itself was a Ford garage, and nobody is going against that. And I would like to re-emphasise again, Mr. Chairman, the Community Council are not against the selling of alcohol. The Community Council are opposed to the hours of the selling of alcohol.
Okay, in the report there are comments about the use of CCTV and matters like that. That has come in within the application and will be considered with the application. But yeah, okay, I'll pass it over.
Okay, if I can pass over to the applicant who may want to comment on the matters as raised by the Community Council. Next, please, Chair.
No comments, Chair. Thank you. I will put everything on my statement at the end.
Okay, then, Chair, we'll move on then to the applicant. There's no further, let me just double check. I don't think there's any further submissions. I think the Community Council was the last submission. So I'll hand you over to the applicant so they can give their views of how they're going to operate the premises, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Before I go into the statement, if I clarify a couple of things. My client is trying to run a decent business. My client is fully aware that he is going to rely on the local community. We are not expecting any customers from outside this area. So from the beginning of this application, his main concern is just the satisfaction of his neighborhood and his immediate customers, because we are relying on these local residents, and our survival is completely dependent on our neighbors. From the behavior from my client, you can see that he was very flexible. We're trying to reduce our initial application by 50%, and even today we reduced further 1 hour. So even if his plan was, even if he granted 24 hours, we never planned to open 24 hours straight away. He's already invested more than 100 grand into this business. There's lots of works need to be done structurally and in so many other ways. We have to install lots of machineries into it as well because of the pumps and other stuff. So there are lots of investment. He will never ever jeopardize any of these by upsetting his customers, because this is the only customer base he's relying on. We are not in the middle of city center or town center. This is a rural area, and this is our customers. If I go to my statement, Chair, the applicant, he's an experienced license holder, and this is not a standalone shop. This is going to be Sterling Petroleum. It's a chain of garages. I have my area manager here. We have a standard across the board. And this is not going to be a wine shop. It's going to be a small petrol station with a mini supermarket. We have range of groceries, as well as we plan to have alcohol. The premises, as I mentioned earlier, they're currently under refurbishment. There are lots of investment into it, and there is no restriction on planning hours. I don't want to go into the planning hours and make it more complicated, but we're trying to get a alcohol license hours within the consent. I just want to make this point very clear again, Chair. We are not asking this license to sell few cans of beer and create problem in our neighborhood to us and to the residents. This is not our aim. This is not keeping us, it's not going to keep us in the business. It's going to destroy our business. It's not going to destroy our reputation, our investment, and everything. We have to keep our customer happy. We have to keep the area safe in order for us to survive in this area, because this is a rural community we depend on. Please note, Chair, that this application was supported by all of the responsible authorities. When we made this application, we put a number of measures. There's another thing I just want to point out. We have agreed all the recommendations forwarded by the police and other authorities in full. We never negotiate any of them. We took everything on board in full. And also, I would like to point out, all the recommendations advised by the police service are not new. It's something we already mentioned on our application. They have upgraded it, like CCTV. They made the condition a little bit more, I would say, enforceable, or a little bit more alterations, but the conditions were originally in our application. So the measures are in place. This is the standard we keep across all our service stations. Yes, there was no objection from the responsible authorities, and this is not a special policy area, and we have all the measures in place already. I can understand the concerns raised by the residents. All we can say that we are in the middle of the rural community. We are aware of the concerns, and we will always work to keep everything under control. If I go to the, briefly go to the concerns raised by the other persons, as we already discussed, most of them is aiming towards the planning application and not under the 4 licensing objectives. If I go individually, the licensing objective there, Chair, if I go to the crime and disorder aspect, the police are happy with this, and we have accepted all the conditions from the police. And the conditions like CCTV, night vision cameras, trainings, certain conditions related to alcohol sales, all of them are there. And the public safety aspects, no objection from environmental health. Again, there are a number of measures we have put in place, staff training and we have a parking facility. And I understand one of the resident concerned about the parking in a, nobody used the parking in a post office. This is a grocery shop. So people would like to park close to the shop because they will end up carrying stuff back to the car. So it's more likely they will use our parking area, which has an easy access in and out. So there are some groundworks need to be done in order to lay out the parking facilities and stuff. So we're going to provide all the facilities for parking. The space is enough. That's amber parking space is enough. So that's the public safety aspect. When it comes to the public nuisance, the noise pollution and the environmental health, again, they have no concerns about this application. The premises is not going to be very busy in late hours. And again, when I mention late hours, because we have reduced the hours now, 11 o'clock, it's not going to be very busy. We are not expecting anybody from outside the village. On a very busy time, it's going to be, we are expecting maximum 2 people at a time in a late hours. That's what we are expecting, because we don't have that level of customers.
Could I ask you one question about your petrol sales? Would they be 24 hour, would they be automatic, or would they be manually operated?
Manually operated.
Probably not open overnight then?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't.
Probably not open overnight?
Yes. No. For the time being, we are not planned to open all night, yes. In terms of the public nuisance aspect, noise pollution or environmental health, they haven't made any concerns regarding this application. And we have already made some measures in place, as licensing officers clearly mentioned, that the forecourt lighting here, it's a downward facing light. So it's not going to, it's not going to like be a bright light facing towards the residents. It's just a downward facing lights. It's a dimmable lights. So it's just the floor spaces will be lit up. And again, it's a dimmable one. So depending on the darkness, so we can manually control the intensity of the light. That's the lighting system. The deliveries, we are not expecting any late night deliveries, and all of these can be our license conditions again. The tannoy system, again, it might not be useful now because if you see the service hatch is only operable after midnight, but we are not going to midnight now anyway. We're not going to have the loudspeakers in some petrol stations. The petrol stations used to have small speakers next to the pump. We're not going to have those. We're going to have a small tannoy system where voice can be adjustable, and the voice only audible, I think, is a meter or 2 from the device. So it's a new system. Everything is going to be brand new. We are not using any existing structures. Everything is brand new. So that's why it's costing more than 100,000 already. And also, we will provide adequate bins. Our customers need to throw rubbish. They have to, on the street, they have to go to the street to throw the rubbish because the bins will be in our area. So we are providing all of them, and we are emptying all of them, all the steps we are taking. So there's lots of measures here. Again, I just want to reiterate, there are some premises selling alcohol and other stuff in the area. I can guarantee there's none of the premises have any of these conditions on their license. We are putting lots of them to promote the licensing objective. The last thing, the protecting children from harm. Again, we have no objection from child protection or any other health services. We have lots of conditions in place, and these conditions are going to be our license conditions, which we must comply with. Staff training, we are not keeping the spirits on the shop floor, is always behind the counter. Challenge 25, and staff are fully trained to see whether somebody buying alcohol for minors, all of them are there. And also, I just want to point out our tills. This is something my client invested extra. Our till has a system, our EPOS terminal has a system, when every time our staff trying to sell an alcohol or tobacco product, the till automatically asks them to check the ID. The staff, without performing the task, he can't complete the transaction. So this is the safety measure on top of the the trainings we provide. So he has to comply with it in order to sell the packet of cigarette or the alcohol. So all these measures are in place, which none of the premises have. So these are the measures we have put in place to promote the licensing objective, Chair. Also, please note that the objections made, again, we respect their concerns, but they were made without any supporting evidence. Please don't compare us with the other premises. This is a complete new makeup with all the extra measures in place. We are not same like other premises, and I think it's not fair to compare us with an existing premises or history of any other premises. We have our own management team, and we have our area manager to oversee the day-to-day businesses. So there are lots of safety measures in place. On top of everything, Chair, there is a review process. Under the Licensing Act, there is a review process, which is a very powerful process. If anything goes wrong, which I'm sure it's not going to happen, if anything goes wrong, anyone can call for a review of this license in the future. More importantly, it's very easy to call a review against this application, this license, because we have lots of conditions. And it's very easy to call a review against this. So we have all these safety measures in place. And as I mentioned before, I don't want to repeat everything again. My client has invested lots of money into this, and this is going to be managed by not one tier, like a two-tier management. The applicant is here, he's responsible person for this premises. He will be looked after by his area manager, so the safety measures are already in place. In this current climate, businesses need some sort of stability. I understand that this is not the licensing objective when you look to make the decision. However, we can't hide from the reality. You know the steps and measures and the legislations and the procedures a small business has to follow in these days. There's lots of them. So they have to invest a lot. They are prepared for it. So they will never jeopardize by causing a problem in the neighborhood. If the license is granted today, 6 to 11, 7 days a week, we need at least 4 members of staff from the local community in order to manage these premises. This sort of improvement we need in the current climate for our economy. So I think this business will benefit to the community, not only for the neighborhood, but also in terms of the job market and the economy of the area as well. Finally, Chair, this application has been supported by all the responsible authorities who have the expertise on their field: crime and disorder, public nuisance, protecting children from harm, and public safety. So all of the responsible authorities are supporting this application. Most of the objections in front of you are not under the licensing objective, with all due respect. The others were not supported by any evidence. And this premises is not in a special policy area. And therefore, Chair, this application should be granted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing that I wasn't clear about is that you've reduced your application to 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. Does that stand regardless of whether there, if there was an appeal or whatever happens in the future, would that still stand? Am I making myself clear or not?
Sorry, Councillor, no.
I think, Chair, that's the matter for decision with today, because obviously you've got objectors saying a time that they would like, and you've got what the applicant is saying, that they are going to reduce their alcohol sales to 11 p.m. They are willing to do that. So that's a matter you would decide, well, are you happy to go along? So in effect, it's like renewing their application, in effect, is saying they're going over and above the application. They're willing to go down to 11 p.m. here today, and that'll be either you go with the applicant's decision or you go with whatever the other times that's been mentioned today. So if it was a right of appeal, the applicant is saying they are going to go to 11 o'clock, so if you granted it to 11 o'clock, then others would have that right of appeal against that time as well, if that makes sense.
Thank you for understanding me.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I only have one question, and that's it's two questions actually. One around deliveries. If you're opening for the sale of alcohol from 6 to 11, could we limit deliveries to the site between office hours, say 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock? That would help, keep it quieter for neighbours after that period. And you mentioned as well that you're currently not looking to open the petrol station 24 hours currently. Is that the long-term objective then, to open it 24 hours?
Our general practice, Councillor, it's once we get the license, once we open the shop, we always liaise with the local people. And depending on what they decide, we'll just go with them. They make the decision rather than we do. In terms of deliveries, my area manager already nodding for that, so we are happy to do that.
I just got one question. You've obviously demonstrated to us you've got a business model which runs around a convenience store and the sale of petrol with the additional application for sale of alcohol. That's clearly what you're about, isn't it? You've got this business model working elsewhere in other parts of Wales. How many outlets have you got?
We have a 15 sites.
15 sites, okay, thank you. I got no other questions, but I don't know whether the...
Sorry, Jake, can you just clarify the times of delivery that you agreed to? Because also when you come to summing up.
Between 9 to 5 p.m.
9 to 5 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay. The objectives now have an opportunity to raise any questions as well, Chair. So perhaps we'll go in order. So if we have the lady that's on Teams, if she wants to, Mrs. Grace, if she wants to ask any questions of the applicants, what they've just said.
No, I've got no further questions. I guess it was just to thinking about what you were saying about it, not the whole thing around noise and light is all part of the whole licensing agreement. I know you didn't feel that was, and one of the things that you commented that other businesses in the area didn't have to go to these lengths to get their licensing agreement. I think they probably did. This high street is a conservation area as well, and I think it's really important that that is taken into consideration. Again, I know that's probably not to do with the sale of alcohol, but I know that the noise and light in a conservation area is a very important issue. And I know, living opposite, I know that lots of changes have been made, and I know that I can't make changes to any part of my building without going through planning, and I obviously haven't seen any of the plans that have gone in to even change the colour of the building and things like that, because it's a conservation area. So I think that's really important when we think about.
If I can interject there, sorry, Ms. Grace, obviously the planning is not a matter for decision today, or the conservation areas, but thank you for raising it, but obviously it's not a matter for consideration today. Okay. If you've got no others, I'll go on to the
Could I just one question?
Yeah.
Points have been raised regarding lighting and things like that, and according to Mrs. Wynne, that the premises at the moment is able to do this, that and the other, sell petrol, sell food and not what. Would you be prepared, should the, I see it not shaking head, but the fact they didn't sell food doesn't mean to say they can't sell food now. You took the train of my thoughts. Would you be prepared to go through advice from the planning people regarding some of the comments that have been made about lights and not what? Nothing to do with this licence application, but they might be a future situation you may need to address.
Yeah, from the Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you, Chair. From the behavior of my client from the beginning of this application, we are always cooperative with all the authorities, not only just the resident. We were flexible from day one, and we took all the advice on board. We never say no, we never negotiate anything with any authority. So yes, we are 100% cooperative.
And then the next person, if you want to pass comment on what the applicant has just said, is Mrs. Warwick, if you would like to pass any comment on what the applicant has said.
I'm just wondering, how many hours are you keeping your petrol going for then? Would you closing up something like the hours they've done before and just have alcohol then, or what would it be?
Is the at the moment it's 6 to 11. Everything will be shut.
Everything we shall.
And then the next lady is Councillor Jones. If you want to raise any concerns or pass comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you know, we reiterated once that we're not against the garage or the residents of Raglan, not the Royal We. We're not against the garage. We're not against the shop or the selling of alcohol. It's the hours that we were coming here to complain about. But I have got one question. I know that in other premises they sell food. I live near one of them. They sell food throughout the day, and I was just wondering whether this would be continue until 11 o'clock at night, so people could come in for food as well as alcohol. It hasn't been mentioned so far, and I wondered if the two are aligned.
See, that to me is a different issue altogether. Mrs. Wynne has referred to the fact that
Yeah.
this premises in this area is allowed to sell alcohol, allowed to sell petrol, and it is able to be a convenience store. So I think we've got to put them on one side. But there may be some questions you want to ask in the future as to how those areas are addressed, because they may need addressing, but not from today's license.
I was just thinking whether it would to bring in a different clientele for the alcohol, that was all. But yes, it is something that we'll keep an eye on. Thank you, Chair.
With regards to the Licensing Act, just to clarify for Councillor Jones, is hot food and drink is a licensable function, but that's from 11 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's not a matter for this today. All right. Okay. Yeah. And then if there's no further questions there, Chair, did you want to respond to that? No? Because the next gentleman then will be Mr. Edwards then, if he wants to pass comment.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. The agent on behalf of the applicant has made a number of statements this afternoon in relation to light pollution. He's gone back to the argument that the officers have put. This is an argument on licensing. But in that argument, the agent has also raised the point about light. You need light to go into the forecourt, to go into the premises. At this moment in time, two of the residents, the one who lives opposite, the one who lives next door, has already said that the property, the garage was existing, was opening from 7:30 till 5:30 in a weekday and 7:30 till lunchtime on a Saturday, with no hours of opening on a Sunday. So there is this historic use there and the planning. Could I ask Mr. Davis, if you're from the legal department, where does it correlate between historic planning applications and current application for licensing? Because to grant a license under the main issue of opening between X hours in the morning and X hours at night, which are being proposed, for health and safety purposes, light will be required. And for light being required, in what I understand is being said today, will require planning. So could I ask, would the planning need to be granted first or the license? If the license is granted first, if you grant it for X as the application 24 hours a day, or the amended, which has been said today, from X hours in the morning till midnight, there is still a requirement for planning in relation to use. So where would that stand on the...
Can I give you a parallel to that? In the recent past, we had a licence application for change of use for property in Monmouth, and that was for a gaming show place there. That was agreed, but then the planning department then had to go through the planning process of agreeing what that was actually used for, and there were some questions, Mrs. Wynne, you weren't involved, were you, about how that premises would run. That's the two issues. One goes through licensing, the other goes through planning. Which comes first? I would say the chicken comes first before the egg.
Thank you, Chairman, for making that quite clear. The issue is still there, though, Mr. Chairman and panel members, that historically the property has never been open after 5:30 in the afternoon or early evening. So does historic use come into what you're going to consider today for licensing?
I think I'm going to have to intervene. I would say no. And I think we're going round the circles of matters we can't discuss. Well, we can discuss them. We won't get any resolution today. We've got to discuss the licence application for sale of alcohol. I got thoughts on the others, but that would be up to others to deal with.
I'm asking questions, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
on behalf of the Community Council in response to what the agent has said.
We'll answer the best we can, and I'll leave the agent to speak. Okay.
Okay, if there's no further questions from yourselves, Chair, and from the panel, it's opportunity to just quickly sum up, with regards. So I don't know if you want to just go through, I don't know if you want to add any further comments summing up to your case. So it'll go again, obviously you've heard from the other person, so if they've got anything further other than has been said, if they, just want to sum up anything, and similarly the applicant can sum up at the end as well. So, and then I'll raise the points that was raised for you before going off to decide, Chair. Okay, so if the objectors would like to just sum up anything quickly, over and above what's just been said.
I'm okay.
You just quickly go through the names. Mrs. Grace, if you've got anything to sum up, first of all, that makes it easier if I just go through the list.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then you've got Mrs. Warwick, have you got anything else to sum up? No, thank you. And Councillor Penny-Jones, anything to sum up?
No, I think all points have been made, thank you.
And then Mr. Edwards, then anything to sum up?
The only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is we hope that you will consider the opening hours what's been suggested by the Community Council. Thank you.
And then I'll pass it over to the applicant. Anything to sum up with regards to that?
Nothing new, Chair. Just to sum up very, very quickly, my client has invested a lot, and this is his livelihood. We never jeopardize it. We are relying on our local residents for our survival. And from the view today, there's nothing suggested with an evidence to say our proposal will undermine the licensing objectives. What you have in front of you is the conditions we have proposed, the safety measures we have put in place to promote the licensing objectives. Nothing in front of you to say this will undermine the licensing objectives. We were a lot more flexible from the beginning. We accept everything. We worked with the authorities. We reduced our initial application for more than 50%. And again, there's no evidence to suggest this will undermine the licensing objective. It's not a special policy area, and all the RAs are supporting this application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, Chair, the applicant has said in the meeting today that they're willing to do the alcohol sales from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. They're also doing the 3.7 of the report, the extra points that they said about lighting, tannoy systems on that. They've also said today that the times of delivery will be between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. But obviously the legal will guide you on this as well once you're out. And also the objectors have said they would prefer the timings of 0500 to 2100 hours, opening hours, Monday to Saturday, with with the alcohol sales, starting from 8 o'clock during Monday to Saturday, and then on the Sunday they would prefer 0800 hours to 1600 hours, opening hours on the Sunday with the alcohol sales being that same time.
Is the first comment you made relevant about the place being open 5 till 9 when we're talking about the license?
Yeah, that was regarding the delivery, so it could be formally.
No. Sorry, 5 till in the morning till 9 at night.
That's proposed from the community council.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what the objectors would like to see. So just to clarify
opening
that.
of a convenience store, that is. The alcohol will be from 8
No,
till
I think
4.
the objector said 0500 to 2100 hours opening hours Monday to Saturday, but with alcohol being 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock,
Right.
Monday to Saturday 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And then on the Sunday they would prefer 0800 to 1600 hours, and that was opening times and alcohol sales. That's what they would like to see in the community council meeting.
Are we to determine the opening hours of the premises?
That is your, you determine the alcohol sales.
Yeah, that's all I'm concerned about.
But I was just saying what the objector has said, but like I said, the applicant have said they were going 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. with the alcohol sales. That's what they put forward. Okay? Sorry? 7 days a week, that is. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Chair, could I just clarify one point, just on the parking issue? Are you able to say how many parking spaces there will be at the premises?
More than 20.
Thank you.
How many parking spaces would be, and be up to 20?
That is within our boundary.
Yeah. But I ask again, is that relevant to today's application?
It was to deal with sort of traffic and nuisance from traffic was one of my thought, but it's a point of clarification.
We'll have to adjourn now for a little while to deliberate on what you've said, and we'll come back as soon as possible. We normally do it on Zoom and have a separate connection, but we can go into another room on our own. Okay? And you'll be coming with us, won't you? Yeah.
12, isn't it? Yes. It's the golf. Country, I know. It's like country park estate. It's like always good at all. Yes, yeah. Always. As we did, we paid at the tax, I remember. We paid for it, I literally could go ourselves last minute. Yes, I've been doing that. It's bad. These microphones are really good to speak into them. Yes. You know, the only ones we had before, we used to stand up like you did, and it'd be down here. It's fine. Now we have to go like this. No, don't you? Yes, well, I've got personalities, so they don't usually complain about me. But it's good. Yes, there was a coffee morning, sausage thing, which I couldn't go to. My daughter carried us to trade. Just lost a great friend. And the widow was a great friend, wanted us to have some meeting. On Saturday, I had to visit with them. Yeah, of course. So we always say that we just have to then we just and now we have to do these images. So we bring that. Thanks for sharing. That's why I couldn't come. Like, sorry. Oh, yeah. Support. Lovely. Never go there. That's what you do again. Yeah. They kind of did it on that stand. Did she used to do it on the butcher? I thought it was on. Sorry. on the wall there, you have to go and have the wall outside. So I don't know, maybe. I have to go down to those sections. I'm going to have to give them before she goes on. So you'll get the check to me.
I'll get the check tonight.
No, don't get it to me tonight. So please take on your months and then let's make sure you're You didn't turn up. No, but yes, yes, yes. Yes, unusual. Excuse me. You surrounded by Oh, he is on the salary. Old school. So they won't do it because of the citizens. It's not true. It's just the hospital will do it in next financial year. So this is for them to speed up the survey and any improvement that comes out of it is done in the next 6 months. They help. I heard about that one last week, but I didn't know what it was because I heard the problem. But it's that's not the case. And the law is the potentials for yes. I think it's better. I think it's better. Yeah. Oh my God, he asked me something phone and I forgot. What did he ask me? It was you agent. It was you was about the market, farmers market. Yeah. Most of them I got already, so I had to complete it. Can't buy it. Yeah, that's what I want, isn't it? About training standards, or I'll deal with it tomorrow. I mean, So, the front part, what would you say is food on that? Once or twice a month. No, these are outside. Well, no, both walls. Some are and some are. I don't know. Some probably have it. We were talking about the car park. Having a car park. So outside. There's just somebody asking a question, because if you want it us, but they've got rid of them now from the memorial hall, and then
Thanks, being said that, so you can see transcription.
it used to be very successful. You need to be.
No, I think it's
Usually Saturday morning.
it's good gift to get ready for people.
No, and it's lovely, fresh food. Local oil and cool, vineyards and the local cheese breaks and the local charcuterie breaks. So it would be lovely. But if you've got, lots of places. So I've got to get a decent ones who must work on anything like this. She said she's written because she's so upset. You are, but the thing is, she wanted that Richard. The way she told you that well, they can't do anything because it's illegal. That's illegal. Any legal things legal. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Contract, yeah. Yes. That's right. This I have delivery for 14 hours or 2 days. It's a transport. I know. No, she's at, she's at Democratic Services working.
Was this all newly built for jobs?
Yes. You do know it. When I was first hosted, it was 10 years ago. And Cumbrae had been closed down with the county hall at Cumbrae because of concrete cancer. And they had to close the building. There was nowhere, absolutely nowhere to go. So we were brand new, never didn't know anybody or anything. And so anyway, we
one week in Monmouth, Shire Hall, and then another week somewhere else at a hall, and then it was chaos. I don't know how long we had it. So we wanted to build something, perhaps that we wanted to build something that was didn't cost. It was not hugely, because we wanted something that was very simple, really hot desking, and thank goodness. Thank you.
Right, we got the deliberation. I will pass over to Linda and the legal eagle to have our deliberations.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Licensing and Regulatory Committee has to consider an application for a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003 for a premises licence for Raglan Service Station, High Street, Raglan, made by Mr Nangaratham of 5 Church Street, Rumney. Due to representations received against the licence application, the local authority are required to hold a hearing to consider the application. A copy of the application with plans provided by the applicant is attached at Appendix A. Photos of the surrounding grounds of the premises are attached at Appendix B. The committee has considered the detailed report produced by Licensing Officer Samantha Wynne. The committee has reviewed a copy of the application with plans provided by the applicant at Appendix A and B. The committee fully considered these documents. The applicant, within their operating schedule, has outlined their arrangements under the 4 licensing objectives. These arrangements have been set out at paragraphs 3.2 of the officer's report. In summary, generally, the premises will be managed and controlled by a responsible person at all times. The designated premises supervisor will be on the premises or contactable during operating hours. Prevention of crime and disorder, CCTV will operate at the premises. Images will be retained for a period of at least 31 days and will be made available to any of the responsible authorities on request. Public safety, the management will take part in local neighbourhood watch or similar schemes. Prevention of public nuisance, single cans or bottles of beers and ciders or plastic cups to accompany purchase of alcohol are not to be sold. A list of persons that cause issues will be maintained by the premises, and the management will not serve alcohol or tobacco products to these individuals at any time. The protection of children from harm, all staff members will serve alcohol, will be trained in the prevention of underage sales to a level commensurate with their duties. All such training will be updated as necessary. The training will be clearly documented and signed. A Challenge 25 policy will be operated by the premises with notices informing customers of the policy. Only forms of suitable identification will be accepted. All staff with responsibility for supplying or selling alcohol shall be vigilant in preventing adults buying alcohol on behalf of persons who are under 18 and will refuse such sales where they suspect that this may occur. This will be documented. Representations in respect of the application were received from Gwent Police on the grounds that the application in its original form could undermine the licensing objectives. The police requested the applicant agree to accept conditions relating to CCTV, recording of incidents and refusal logs, staff training and Challenge 25. These are set out in paragraph 3.4 of the officer's report. Gwent Police removed their representations after the applicant agreed to accept all of the conditions required. The licensing section submitted a representation under the ground of prevention of public nuisance, prevention of crime and disorder and public safety, and this is detailed in paragraph 3.5. The licensing section removed their representations after the applicant agreed to accept the additional condition relating to the use of a night pay window and the removal of conditions relating to the DPS and the type of goods being sold. No other representations were received from the remaining statutory consultees referred to in paragraph 3.3 of the report. Representations were received from other persons. Copies of those representations and objections are attached at Appendix C. In summary, the representations can be linked to the 4 main licensing objectives: entice people to congregate outside the premises, light pollution, noise from the increase in traffic, cause of noxious or obnoxious smells and pollution, litter, proxy sales, noise from the increase in customers to the premises. The committee has noted the applicant's responses to these representations at paragraph 3.7 of the officer's report. The committee notes that representations made under the Licensing Act 2003 must be made under the 4 key licensing objectives. When considering their decision, the committee has been mindful to consider the licensing objectives guidance, in particular sections 2.1 and 2.21 of the Home Office revised guidance issued in April 2018 under the Licensing Act 2003, which is attached at Appendix D. The determination of an application is to be considered in accordance with Section 18 of the Licensing Act. The committee is mindful of Section 9.4 of the guidance, that the Secretary of State recommends that a representation would only be relevant if it relates to the likely effect of the grant of the licence on the promotion of at least one of the licensing objectives. In Section 9.12 of the guidance, it states each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field, and in some cases it is likely that a particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. The committee has also considered Monmouthshire County Council's policy, which sets out its views on the 4 licensing objectives at sections 10 to 13, which is at Appendix E. The committee have carefully considered the submissions of the parties in attendance at today's hearing and thought very carefully about the decision that they've had to make. The committee has considered the representations made under the Licensing Act and the 4 key licensing objectives. The committee is mindful that the determination of an application is to be considered in accordance with Section 18 of the Licensing Act 2003. The committee have been able to ask any questions they have considered relevant in this decision. The committee have considered the information provided by the applicant within the report and additional correspondence and have noted the representations from the applicant at today's meeting. The committee have paid very careful attention to the issues raised. In particular, the committee notes the concerns by those objecting to the application in respect of the 4 licensing objectives. In reaching its decision, the committee have had regard to the following: the submissions of all parties and the additional conditions that have been agreed with Gwent Police and the Licensing Department. In taking into account all the above matters, relevant legislation and guidance and all the relevant circumstances of the application, the committee have decided to grant the application with the following condition. The opening hours are to be between 6 AM and 11 PM, Monday to Sunday, with deliveries only between 9 AM and 5 PM. The committee would like to add to that to recommend that the applicant engages with responsible authorities and the Planning Department with regard to this premises. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Well, all I can do is wish you luck, and thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you very much, councillors and other people, for your attendance as well. The meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I should add, Chair, my oversight. The applicant will receive written confirmation of the decision within 5 working days, and any party may appeal against this decision within 21 days of being notified of the decision, and that appeal is to the Magistrates' Court.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Will the Community Council have a copy of that as well?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.